Normally, you guys get these extended stewardship letters with budgets and everything else. And this year we thought we would make a movie and allow you to click on it so that you could see what your support is making possible. And in the Board of Trustees meeting, we were talking about stewardship and what we might do. And we figured we would just go directly to the point. The lion's share of our stewardship dollars goes to support salaries, which is staff members who facilitate and make possible the ministries and missions that you people decide you want to do, feel called to as a church. And so this morning, everyone from staff is going to say a few words, and then Steve Carlson, who's the chair of the Board of Trustees, is going to talk a little bit about our mission giving, and Ken Cohn is going to talk about the ways that we have cared for our building, which is another big part of our support of the church. And then finally, Glenn Jensen, who is our treasurer, is going to give you the nuts and bolts about our budget. And on behind me are just a bunch of random pictures that we put together over the past week that we think gives you an idea of the life of our church. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know, I'm Max, and I'm a minister and pastor. And people often say, what's the difference between being the minister and the pastor? And, well, I do a little bit of both. As your minister, I'm here to serve you and to serve the church. And I really think it comes down to one basic question that I ask. Whether it's I'm at your bedside, in your hospital room, with your children, in youth group, in meetings, in worship. Where is God in all of this? What's that? Yoga. Well, I'll get to yoga soon. I'll do yoga too. But I'm the person who's here to help us remember to ask the question, where is God in all of this? In these budgets, in these activities, in these luncheons that we have. You know, one of the things I do for all of you, and you don't see me do it, is every day I pray. Because your lives, your souls are in my care. And so as I remember you throughout the course of the day, I stop and say a prayer. I baptize children, I visit the sick, I marry people, I help people remember like we did today, but often at a funeral service. We do yoga with Maggie and Ellie, comes to yoga. Small groups, so I lead a bunch of small groups, which are people growing in their faith. And I also do the youth ministry here with Beth. So that's middle school and high school youth groups. So for example, some of you received a jack-o'-lantern on your front porch that was made by the middle school youth group. And I was the guy who drove those pumpkins around. And as your pastor, so that's the minister part, the service part. As your pastor, that's a word that means shepherd. And one of the things that's my responsibility is to keep us focused and moving like a flock of sheep. We listen together to what God is calling us to be and do, but I, as your pastor, keep it focused and keep it moving, because I'm the only one who's thinking about this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so I call meetings like this. I call meetings like the leadership potlucks we've been part of. I have conversations asking the question, where is God in all of this? And so, as you can see, there is much that we do. Unfortunately, the pictures are smaller than I'd hoped they would be, and they're a little bit darker than I would hope they would be. But now I'd like to invite Beth forward as our Director of Congregational Life. And she said, how am I going to explain what it is I do? And I'm looking forward to hearing what she says.
Good morning, everyone. So you might think, what's the Director of Congregational Life? I like to think of it as I support the church in all the ways that don't have to do with Sunday morning. I help our congregation find ways to connect with our church community outside of worship. And that my primary role is to make sure you know what we're doing through all the communication that we do in a way so that you can find a way to engage in the church community, whether that be through social things that we do, our fellowship, the mission and outreach work. We just had our Family Promise hosting week. We just finished this morning, and I can't thank everybody enough who helped with that. And there's the other thing that I see my role is that all of you help run the church. You all volunteer. And my main focus is to make it easy for you to volunteer. And so I want to make sure that I'm in touch with you to say, what can I do to help make your job here at the church easier? We have a lot of fun, and I think one of the things that I always am listening for is if you have something that you are passionate about that maybe we're not doing, come talk with us to say, I'd like to start maybe focusing in this area. And we then take a look at it and say, is this something that we as a church are able to bring on board, and how does that fit with the other things that we're doing? Because really, what should be driving what we do as a church is what you're passionate about.
Thank you. Sarah? Or you can just start eating?
Okay.
Okay. Now Sarah is our the administrator of our Sunday school and the coordinator of our OWL program. There you go.
Good morning. So yes, I am I call myself the Christian Education Director.
Christian education.
And so what I do is I organize the Sunday school, but I also organize the OWL program, which is our human sexuality program that we offer 8th graders here. And from I figured out that I was going to be speaking today. I took a look at when I started here and now today, and I looked at the numbers of kids that when I started, there were 25 kids enrolled in our Sunday school, and now there are over 60 kids enrolled in our Sunday school, and on an average Sunday, there are probably about 30 kids who come every week, which is very, very exciting. We also have a really fun, engaging curriculum that the kids love. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why they're coming, and we offer tons of opportunities for kids to get involved. We have special projects, like I'm sure you're looking at the pictures, but we have pulpit scarves that we've done with some of the age groups, and also a mosaic, and we are going to be doing another mosaic this year with the older kids. I also communicate regularly with parents and volunteers in our community, and we've come to the point where we're able to have paid teachers in our Sunday school, which is fantastic, and it's, I think, really needed for continuity and consistency with the learning of our students. So I've never felt so great. I have to say that I love working here, and I feel really cared for. So thank you.
Sarah is also one of our primary evangelists. Whenever she's out in the community meeting new people, she says, oh, you should come by the Dover Church and check it out, which is a huge bridge to the world. Michael, would you like to come forward? Michael is our music director and the caretaker of our organ, which he built. In case, I don't know if all of you know this story, but Michael came to be with us when his company installed the organ that we have. And so that's the long story, but there are pictures. We didn't send any pictures of you actually building it. Your friends were talking about it.
Well, that takes care of the first paragraph. Thank you for leaving the microphone down, too. But yeah, so I've been here 23 years, which is when the organ came here in 1993. It wasn't my company at that point, but I have become president since then. So obviously the organ is my passion. I build organs, I play organs. I actually have to practice the organ also, in case. I didn't want that to go without saying, that a lot of my time goes into practicing the organ. It's not as easy as it looks, as I say. But beyond that, there's a lot of rehearsing that goes on around the church, whether it's the choir, or the various choirs, or the youth group, the youth choirs, our band this morning. It was a long morning rehearsal, but it takes a lot of coordination to bring that all together and to pick up music that's appropriate. So I've always seen that. Most of my time is spent. A lot of my time is spent in worship planning and trying to provide and coordinate all of the musical talents and entities of the church to a single purpose of providing music that supports each and every worship service in a way that hopefully helps people connect spiritually to the Word and to the world through the music. Max and Beth and I have been working even harder than we have in the past at our, and now Jack, our very talented intern that we have, working really closely in fine-tuning our rather complex process of planning, because as we do more and more varieties of music and include more and more people, it takes a lot more planning to try to make that really integral with the worship service that Max plans out from the outset. So there's a lot of time and effort and planning that goes into that. There's so much stewardship that goes on in this church beyond the obvious what we're talking about today is the giving of the money, but you all and people that aren't here give a lot of their time, and certainly in the music program I couldn't do that without everyone. The choir that comes virtually every week, week in, week out, year after year. I mean, that's incredible stewardship. As I said, we've been trying to increase our variety of music and variety of worship service experiences. And it comes in multiple forms. Today you heard the Dixieland Band. We try to use the hymns as the basis for the music, but present it in different styles with the Dixieland. And next week you'll hear something completely different on a similar subject matter with the Four-A Requiem, and we'll have violinists and a professional singer joining us to help fill out the choir a little bit. So there are those times, as far as the music budget goes, beyond what you pay me to come and coordinate all of this. There are times when we need to pay people to really enhance what we're trying to do, so that we can present a quality experience and provide quality music in whatever we do. So this morning we needed our good friend Ted Casher to kind of, we have a band and we can keep it together, but he really provides, especially in a style like Dixieland music, it's just a flavor that it's hard to pull together unless you have someone like Ted. And next week we'll have violinists, as I said. So that's where some of the music budget goes. The thing I basically am probably trying to say here is that it takes the stewardship of financial giving, as well as the stewardship of all of our generous and loving in-house talent to maintain the high-quality musical offerings that we try to provide each week in our worship experience. Thank you.
And I would say all you have to do is go to another church in the neighborhood, and not that we think we're the New York Yankees or the church, but it's really great on Sunday morning. So Nancy, is Nancy here? I saw her. Nancy, do you want to say a few words? Sure. And then we're going to, am I missing someone from staff besides? No? And then we'll move to Steve, Kim, and then Glenn.
Yeah.
Nancy is our assistant treasurer. So she sent you letters.
So to that point, my kids sort of wonder why I spend so much time at church, and they say how difficult can it be to just take money given on Sunday mornings and deposit it at the bank, and what more is there to do? But to Max's point about my sending you letters, this past year, or to date, I've mailed over 220 letters. Thank you letters acknowledging gifts to the church, and that's not just the Sunday morning gifts. Of that 220, 160 of them were from people that supported our youth and adults who went on the Appalachian Service Project trip. So 160 people supported that trip, and I send them thank you letters because that's how I was raised. I think that there's a lot that goes on in the church business office, and managing the insurance premiums and the policies, and the leases for the various equipment that we have, the copy machine, the town officials that come in and need to inspect our kitchen and our buildings, and managing the wonderful tenant that we have downstairs, the Dover Nursery School. So every day is a little bit different, and there is more to do than just depositing checks at the bank. Before I pass it over to Steve, I just want to highlight one thing that I've had the pleasure of doing in this church that doesn't fall under the finance part of it, and that is working with the putting together the Advent workshop, which is the first Sunday after Thanksgiving weekend, and sometimes it's the first Sunday of Advent, and sometimes it's the second Sunday of Advent. But it's become a wonderful thing that this community does. We have arts and crafts projects for all ages, from nativity sticker pages for the littlest ones to necklaces that have gingerbread men on them, and beaded candy canes. There's also the very highly anticipated Candy Village, where kids create little villages of everything sweet, and whether they're eaten or not is up to the parents at home. There's also a wonderful group of tables where people can create Advent wreaths, and we have artificial materials as well as natural materials. So the room fills with a wonderful smell of balsam and fir, and it's wonderful. So I think with that, I'll then pass it on with all those happy thoughts. I'll bring Steve in, and he can continue happy thoughts.
Thank you, Nancy. Steve, and one of the things we hope you'll notice is that no one here wears just one hat. There are many people doing many different things. So Steve's the chair of the Board of Trustees.
Good morning. Thank you, Max. I'm the chair of the Board of Trustees, but I'm here for a single message today, which is going to be very obvious given what you've just heard. And the message begins by acknowledging that we are blessed to be part of a Christian community that has a passion for helping others. Years ago, we began on this journey with Max to help others in our local community, in the neighboring towns, in the neighboring states, and around the world. And I'm going to list for you, Beth helped me my wife Beth helped me this morning listing all the things we do, but I want to list them for you because it's really important to hear exactly what we do and to know that I would argue none of it would be possible without stewardship giving. With what you've heard today, if you tease out what everybody has said to you today, it's all about the passion for helping others. So Beth mentioned Family Promise. Max mentioned St. Boniface Haiti Foundation. A number of people mentioned the Appalachian Service Project. Kiva, Operation American Soldier, the Circle of Service works with Nursery, and they do the Festival of Wreaths, which I think is coming up. Okay. Heifer International, Sarah didn't mention that, but the kids raise money for that. We support, this building not only supports Family Promise, but all the breakfasts and dinners and lunches, and the Boy Scouts, the nursery school that lives here. All of that isn't possible. None of that would happen without the infrastructure, the personnel and the infrastructure of this church. Now, in our budget, we used to have a line item for us, what we called then social concern. concerns, which was the money that we would give to organizations and programs, sort of like this. But years ago, we took that out because members of the church wanted to give directly through the church to the organizations that they were passionate about. And every year at the annual meeting, we report how much we've raised as a church, and that number exceeds $60,000 every year that flows through the church that's outside of the operating budget. So my message today is we are strong and growing on outreach, mission, and service, but it only happens if you give to the Stewardship campaign to support the operation and infrastructure of the church. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I was going to be, Kim. I mean, it's, when you see the amount of generosity that you're talking about, Kim spearheaded the renovation of the building in 2012. And we thought one of the things that makes our church so special is how well kept it is. So I wanted Kim to share a few words with you.
Thank you. Well, I was thinking about what Beth said about if you have a passion, and I love my church. I love these pictures I see. My children here, it's just so heartwarming. I love interior design, I love historical architecture, and one of the things that we have to do here as a mission is take care of our church property. So it was about let's see, I'll look at my cheat notes. It was about in 2009 that, yeah, we did, and we were approaching our 250th celebration. And I said to Max, you know, the church is looking a little warm, and I think we need to put our party hat on for the 250th. And I thought the physical church needed upgrading both cosmetically and structurally. I worked with Betty Brady, who I think is here, right? Yes. Betty and John Gilbert. And Betty, we went through this church property with a fine-tooth comb. And what I said to Betty and John was, let's not say no to anything. Let's put everything that we think within reason on the list, and let's see what we come up with. And that's exactly what we did. And then we met with contractors to put numbers to all of it. And then we saw the number. Because we really focus mostly on Craft Hall, the Sunday school rooms, and the sanctuary and the grounds. We didn't look at the parsonage, which is part of why I think I'm here today. In any event, it was interesting when we were at the St. Boniface, or a few of us, at the fundraising gala this past week. Father Umi, who spoke, said it's kind of interesting at his church. He can ask for money for windows, and people are very quick to write a check, but asks for help for, a cause like Haiti, and people help, but they're, for some reason, hesitant sometimes. Well, that's exactly what we found here. We planned a gala to raise money, and we did it. I mean, it was kind of a combination of a bunch of different things, but we were thrilled. And so we met with interviewed contractors and started with the Sunday school rooms downstairs, moved our way up here, then to the administrative wing, and then we got to the sanctuary. And like with any buildings that are 170 years old, which is what that building was at the time, there were surprises. And we found we had some significant structural issues, but we thought, you know what, let's tackle them. So we brought in a specialist, I did see one picture that took my breath away with, the hole in the roof, and yeah, it was significant. We had to put some steel channels to support the trusses. But the good news is the church is ready to go, hopefully for another at least 100 years maybe. But there is always ongoing maintenance, and House and Grounds manages that now, but the parsonage is a building that we specifically did not address during that project, and the parsonage does need some work now, and it's where Max lives, but it happens to be one of our treasured church properties, so stay tuned on that, right, Steve? But in any event, I think what I'd also like to say is that the project became more a fellowship project, and it really wasn't about carpet and paint at the end of the day. and the friendships that I made. In fact, I was just talking with Nancy McKay, we'd sit and we'd have our little brown bag lunches and we'd look at paint samples, and it became much more than the actual project. So anyway, thank you.
That's almost the lead-in for nominating, which is how we invite people to participate in the life of our church. Everyone who's been involved in the life of the church finds that it starts out as one thing and then ends up being something much more, relationships. Which is why we want to show these pictures with mostly people in them. You know, here's the church, here's the steeple, open the door and see all the people. Well, that's a true story. And I'm going to show you Glenn now. Glenn is our treasurer, which means he's responsible for the actual budget. Presenting it anyways.
Thanks, Matt. Good morning. The operating budget, basically, as Matt was saying earlier, has to do with salaries, but also house and grounds, turning the lights on or making things going. And that's specifically what we're talking about when we'll talk about the operating budget. What goes into determining what the operating budget each year is what we project for expenses to incur in 2017. And the good news is we're looking probably for a little bit of a decrease in the total operating budget of expenses going out from around 2-3%. On the flip side, on the income side, there are a number of things that determine what we have as operating income. Operating income includes not only the solar panels that were donated years ago, they throw off about $8,000-9,000 of income to the church if we sell it to the grid. Rental income, basically we have the children's nursery school downstairs, and they pay us fees for utilizing that. That's increased over the next few years as well. Pledge income and unpledged amounts. Our unpledged amounts that we get into plates and so forth, and people who have pledged but haven't donated, we're projecting a little bit of a decrease next year. So that overall, our pledge income that you'll see, and when you leave here, there's on the way out, there's envelopes for this year's stewardship that we actually take, otherwise we'll mail it on to you. There's around 2-3% increase over last year. So our expenses are going down, and one of the reasons also for that is that part of our income too is we take money from the endowment. The unrestricted funds, so funds that aren't specifically designed for organ repair or other things, are basically where we take income from the investment return that we get. So that's slightly down for projected for next year due to what's going on in the markets and so forth. So as a result of that, our pledge income is going up slightly. Any questions? Yes.
I have found over the decades taking from endowment not a good idea.
We agree.
Sure, Matt. This is for Matt.
So we agree 100%. So that's the main reason why our endowment, the amounts we're taking out is going down. Ideally, we'd like to go to 0%. But when there's a difference between what our expenses are, what we're collecting from pledges and income and so forth, there's a need to go there to be able to get that. But we're in agreement 100% on that. And the trustees are as well.
I think a good way to understand the finances of the church right now is in 2007 or so, we had a certain number of pledges, and we had a very expansive budget. And then for one reason or another, 60 families left the church, and not for bad reasons, I think, it was just the time. But in the meantime, the money had to be brought from the endowment to maintain the building and those sorts of things. Our hope is to get to the point, as Glenn said, where there's no money coming out of the endowment. We pay for it directly out of pocket. So the endowment can be generating monies for good works, which is what people want to have here, or to keep up the building in the future, which is, you know, the house where I live was given along with the woodlot. We own 8 acres of forest up on Pine Street by Emily Draper Mann. That the Trinity might be preached in Dover. And so that's a gift that we need to take care of. I think, are there other questions about this? We would like, just to give you an idea of time, we would like to, rather than draw this out, wrap it up by Agape Sunday, which is the Sunday before Thanksgiving, when we'll dedicate our pledges. And that will give the trustees a chance to look at the budget and see where we need to go from here. But in general, you know, as you can see, there's much going on, great things, and it's due to your participation, both financially and personally, relationships. So spread the good news and let people know to pick up their pledge card. And we're going to, Chris Cohn's been shooting this as a movie, and we're going to edit it down a bit and make it a link available for those people who didn't come so they can get an idea of this meeting. Because we find that many of our mailings don't make it to the reading stage. And this one we can just keep sending. Are there any questions about this? None? Has everyone had enough to eat? Yes? Okay then. Well, thank you for coming.